Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we were reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 4, the Hamsagurya Prayers, Text 29. If everyone can please repeat. Yad Yan Niruktam Vajasa Nirupitam Diyak Shabir Va Manasota Yasya Ma Bhut Sarupam Gunarupam Hitat tat Savai Gunapaya Visarga Lakshanaha Yadyaniruktam Vachasa Nirupitam Diyakshabir Vamanasota Yasya Mabhutsarupam Gunarupam Hitat tat Savai Gunapaya Visarga Lakshana Yadyaniruktam Vachasa Nirupitam Yakshabir Vamanasota Yasya Mabhut Sarupam Gunarupam Hit. How is that? What's good? Gunarupam Hitat tat Rupam Hitat Savai Gunapaya Visarga Lakshanaha Yadyaniruktam Vachasa Nirupitam Tiyakshabir Vamanasota Yasya Mabhut Sarupam Gunarupam Hit Gunarupam Hitat tat Savai Gunapaya Visarga Lakshanaha Sarupam Gunarupam Hitat tat Mabhut Sarupam Gunarupam Hitat tat Mabhut Sarupam Gunarupam Hitat tat Yet, whatever. Niruktam, expressed. Vachasa, by words. Nirupitam, ascertained. Diya, by so-called meditation or intelligence. Akshabhihi, by the senses. Va, or manasa, by the mind. Uta, certainly. Yasya, of whom. Mabhut, may not be. Sarupam, the actual form of the Lord. Gunarupam, consisting of the three qualities. He, indeed. Tat tat, that. Saha, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vai, indeed. Gunapaya, the cause of the annihilation of everything made of the material modes of nature. Visarga, and the creation. Lakshanaha, appearing as. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Anything expressed by material vibrations, anything ascertained by material intelligence, and anything experienced by the material senses, or concocted with the material mind, is but an effect of the modes of material nature, and therefore has nothing to do with the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is beyond the creation of this material world, for He is the source of the material qualities and creation. As the cause of all causes, He exists before the creation and after the creation. I wish to offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. Purport. One who manufactures names, forms, qualities, or paraphernalia pertaining to the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot understand Him, since He is beyond creation. The Supreme Lord is the creator of everything, and this means that He existed when there was no creation. In other words, His name, form, and qualities are not materially created entities. They are transcendental, always. Therefore, by our material concoctions, vibrations, and thoughts, we cannot ascertain the Supreme Lord. This is explained in the verse, Atashi Krishna Nama Di Nabhavid Graim Indriyai. Pracheta Sadaksha herein offers prayers unto the transcendence, not to anyone within the material creation. Only fools and rascals think God a material creation. This is confirmed by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 9, Text 11. Avajananti ma mudha manashim tanamashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Therefore, one must receive knowledge from a person to whom the Lord has revealed Himself. There is no value in creating an imaginary name or form for the Lord. Shripad Shankaracharya was an impersonalist, but nevertheless he said, Narayana Paro Vyakta. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not a person of the material world. We cannot assign Narayan a material designation as the foolish attempt to do when they speak of Daridra Narayan, poor Narayan. Narayan is always transcendental, beyond this material creation. How can he become Daridra Narayan? Poverty is within this material world. Is found within this material world, but in the spiritual world, there's no such thing as poverty. Therefore, the idea of Daridra Narayan is merely a concoction. Daksha very carefully points out that the material designations cannot be names of the worshipful Lord. Yadyan Niruktam Vichasa Nirupitam. Nirukta refers to the Vedic dictionary. One cannot properly understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead merely by picking up expressions from a dictionary. In praying to the Lord, Daksha does not wish material names and forms to be the objects of his worship. Rather, he wants to worship the Lord, who existed before the creation of material dictionaries and names, as confirmed in the Vedas. Yato vacho nivartante prapya manasa saha. The name, form, attributes, and paraphernalia of the Lord cannot be ascertained through a material dictionary. However, if one reaches the transcendental platform of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes well acquainted with everything, material and spiritual. This is confirmed in another Vedic mantra, Tam eva vidvati mrityum iti. Do you think you could close that door, Prakash, please? If one can somehow or other, by the grace of the Lord, understand the transcendental position of the Lord, one becomes eternal. This is further confirmed by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 4, Text 9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoviti tatvataha tukta deham punarjanma naitimamiti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, or Arjuna. Simply by understanding the Supreme Lord, one goes beyond birth, death, old age, and disease. Srila Shukadev Goswami therefore advised Maharaj Parikshit in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 5, Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Shotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Chetabayam. O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the Supersoul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. Om Ganatimarandasya Gananjana Shalakya Chakshulanmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Kritavachalam Pangam Langai Tegirim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Niditaranam Vancha Kapadrivishta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Brahmanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. Modern civilization is very loud civilization. Just ask Vijay, Prabhu. So if we were to take a poll, we have a big, millions of people, and what's the biggest, well, I don't know, what's the biggest stadium? How much can it hold? Who knows? What of the normal size stadiums or big size stadiums hold? I don't know. Huh? How many people? 132,000 people. So if you were to get a bunch of people together, or if you're just to ask all the people of the world, okay, who wants to be free from misery, right? Everybody raise their hand, right? Practically. Now you get all those people together and you say, who's willing to accept the process of Krishna consciousness? Quiet. Not so many people. Some people. And what I mean by accept is not even just accept, because we don't want people to accept blindly. We just want people to try it. How many of you are willing to try it? So many, just quiet, people aren't so dull-headed, or is that a word? Dull-headed? Yeah, so dull-headed, so, Prabhupada would say, because there were sometimes devotees were criticized for, you're brainwashing people, right? And Prabhupada would say, well, first you get a brain, then we'll wash it. So you don't even have a brain. So to suffer so much, because people are suffering a lot in the world. And then you say, well, just try it. And they say, no, I can't try it. That means, so, unfortunate. So, but it's interesting because there's so much, people are suffering so much and there's, the miseries have been analyzed in the Vedic literature as miseries caused from the body and mind, miseries caused from other living entities, miseries caused by natural hurricanes and all these different things. So people are suffering so much, but despite them suffering so much, still they're so determined, so fixed on not trying out Krishna consciousness. It's amazing. And sometimes when people come to Krishna consciousness, or when they start to practice Krishna consciousness, they do not really give it a good try. It means they don't try enough, or they don't try for an extended period of time in which they could actually see the results. Or they say, I'm having doubts about ISKCON, right? Whatever that means. What is that supposed to mean anyways? I don't know. Like one time they asked Jayadvaita Swami, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami, they're complaining about ISKCON this, ISKCON that, and why is ISKCON doing this, why is ISKCON doing that? And Jayadvaita Swami said something like, well, why don't you go ask ISKCON? Means like ISKCON doesn't consist, it's not made up of one person. There's many people and many ideas. So, now if they say you're having doubts about Srila Prabhupada, okay. There's some people who have doubts about Srila Prabhupada, but what are those doubts? And why don't you present them to somebody before just like jumping to conclusion that the doubts are valuable. And in terms of organizations being imperfect, you still have doubts about the perfectness or the perfect nature of ISKCON. Yeah, there's imperfection wherever you go. You go to any organization, there's plenty of it. Falling from standards. So, but here in Srila Prabhupada's quoting this verse that if a person wants to become free from all miseries, what must they do? They must hear, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead. Chant Hare Krishna, serve Krishna. And the verse goes on, who is the super soul, the control and the savior from all miseries. So, despite people's unwillingness to just give Krishna consciousness a chance, and despite people's tendency to reject Krishna consciousness on the basis of humans' imperfections within a particular organization, people falling short, so let me reject Krishna consciousness. And despite people's giving up Krishna consciousness too quickly on the basis of not getting results, the Srimad Bhagavatam is saying the same thing, that despite all that, if you want to be free from the miseries, you have to hear and chant about Krishna. But again, like when Srila Prabhupada went, I think he went to Chicago. In some places in America, I mean, it's like there's a huge crime problem. Places in America, I mean, around the world also. Many places around the world. Wonder why, but even in America, I mean, there's big cities. It's just, I mean, it's a lot of crime, and they're actually frightening places to go to. People are scared to go to those places. Violence. And so Prabhupada was speaking with one, I was like sergeant or something, a police head of the police department there, and I think it was Chicago, and Prabhupada was saying, just give us a space. We'll invite people, we'll feed them prasadam, we'll teach them how to chant, and then in this way, crime will go down. And then the man, they didn't agree to that. So, in other words, the charya or the teacher or those following the charya, they're giving the solution. But the living entity has to be willing to take it, the solution. They can't expect their problems to be solved without accepting the solution or accepting the the process. And here it said, and what does it mean they'll be saved from miseries, or if you want to be free from miseries, what does it mean? It means that the miseries of material existence, they won't disappear. They'll still be there. But it means that a devotee is not disturbed by them, in a way that other people would be. It means that despite the miseries of material existence. Devotees are very happy, or satisfied, or blissful. And also, Prabhupada quotes Janma Karma Chame Divyam, that after material existence, dealing with all the miseries, but also still not being satisfied, being happy in Krishna consciousness, then they go back to the spiritual world, in which there are no miseries. But again, people are such, the word is creeping us, so cripple-minded, miserly, cripple-minded. They cannot see beyond their tongue, belly, etc. They cannot see beyond their senses, beyond their body. They cannot see beyond their apartment, behind their office cubicle. They cannot see beyond their pipe, where they're smoking ganja out of. They cannot see beyond that. It's not that. We also have to, because you say, the materialists, yeah, definitely they cannot see beyond all this. That's for sure, 100%. But also as practitioners of Krishna consciousness, we also have to be careful. It's not that cripple-mindedness cannot enter. It's Kali's influence. It's not that Kali cannot enter. So we have to be careful that we do not become cripple-minded. We have to be broad-minded, see the bigger picture, and always be trying to utilize our talents, our abilities, the things we are good at and can do in Krishna service, and doing something good for the world. Because what does a kripana mean? What does a miser mean? They have something, they have ability to use for Krishna, and they don't use it properly. Just like Srila Prabhupada, there was one young man in Los Angeles, and he heard about Prabhupada, and he came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and he went upstairs into Prabhupada's room, which is still there in Los Angeles, and which they've maintained that room very nicely there in Los Angeles, actually. You could really, there's a special spiritual energy there. So this man came in and he sat down, and there was a bunch of sannyasis there. It means devotees Prabhupada gave sannyas to. They're holding their dandas. So this man was saying it's like a room full of sticks. And he said there was only two white-wearing devotees. Anyways, two devotees wearing white, Krandar and somebody else, Jagadish or something. And he was the only non-initiated devotee, or non-initiated person there. So then this person was remembering how he said he was into the Maya that he liked to argue with people. So he was coming to challenge Prabhupada and to argue with Prabhupada. Which, anyways, but so he was in this mood. So then he sat down in the room, and he said he had this long curly hair, and he sat down, and then Prabhupada, before, he just stopped talking about what he was talking about, and he just looked at this young man, and he said, "Oh, first of all, let's just back up a little bit, because I missed a point that's important." But this man was thinking that said, "I want to test if this person's really a guru." And he said, "There's 4 things I'm going to test him on." He said, one is he has to be able to predict the future. One is he has to be able to read my mind. And the other two, he has to know what is the absolute truth and what is the process of attaining the absolute truth. So that's what he was thinking. So he sat down, and then Prabhupada immediately said to him, "Why are you such a Kripana?" And then the man was thinking in his mind, "What's a Kripana?" And then Prabhupada said, "A Kripana is one who is opposite of a Brahman. A Brahman is broad-minded. A Brahmana could see the bigger picture. He lives for truth, right? He engages himself in Krishna's service. A Brahman utilizes what he has for Krishna service." And he said, "Why are you being such a Kripana? Why are you being a miser? You're having things that you could use in Krishna service, you're not using it." So then this man was thinking, "I can't believe it. I'm sitting down, and then why is he yelling at me?" And he's thinking, I came to challenge, and I guess he started it first. And then Prabhupada went to go on to explain what is the absolute truth. He said the absolute truth is Radha and Krishna. And then he said the process of attaining the absolute truth is to chant Hare Krishna, engage in the process of devotional service, purify your senses, and attain love of God, the process of devotional service. And then the man was thinking, okay, and then he was thinking, but he didn't say anything about the future. He said that in his mind. So then Prabhupada told Karandar, he said, "Grab my Srimad Bhagavatam." And then Prabhupada said, and then he started reading from the 12th canto. And in the 12th canto, Prabhupada was reading all these predictions. Different predictions. So then the man, he left. He went downstairs and he was driving home, and he was thinking to himself, like he was going over all in his mind. And then he was thinking, how he got defeated by Srila Prabhupada. And then he went home and he got his checkbook. And I believe he went the next day and he wrote a check for $1,000. And he gave it to Krandar. And then Krandar was saying, "You should go up and give it to Prabhupada." And then this person was saying, "No, the first meeting it was really intense, so that's right, you give it to him." So then Krandar went up and gave it to Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada told Krandar to tell this boy that he understood what Prabhupada was saying. And $1,000 at the time was this was 40 whatever many years ago, so it was quite a donation. Anyways, this person became a devotee, but it was an interesting first meeting with Prabhupada. But a fortunate person, a fortunate person will conclude, will have such a conclusion, and actually take to the process of Krishna consciousness. Unfortunate person will just say, "Okay, well, he called me a miser, and yeah, maybe I am a miser. Let me just continue being a miser," or he's wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And in other words, they don't come to the right conclusion. A person lacking fortune. But in terms of him being interested in arguing, it's like so many munis have their idea, right? Have different ideas. It says if you don't have a different idea, you're not a muni, right? It means you're not a philosopher. Now, within ISKCON, that doesn't fly, really. You have so many ideas. People are working within what they feel that Srila Prabhupada, what they understand Prabhupada wanted, and then they're basing on Prabhupada's books, his words. That's where they're coming from. It's not like, hey, I had a dream last night and this philosophical concept came to me, and now I'm going to repeat it in the assembly of devotees. But everybody's working within Prabhupada's words, right? But even then, it's not that we're interested in defeating people. We're not interested in defeating just to defeat, but we're interested in coming to the right conclusion because it's right, because it's the truth. And if somebody else has an idea that is good, or that makes sense, or that is, in other words, if they prove to us, based on Guru, means the Guru's words, or Sadhu's, saintly person's words, or Shastra, that a particular thing should be done or shouldn't be done, then we accept it. It's not that, because I'm attached, or because I think this is better, then I don't accept it. Anyways, so that's part of being a person who is interested in living a life based on truth, is that they're willing to accept, just like this person. He accepted it. He said, I was defeated by Prabhupada and I accepted it. It's not that he fought and no, he accepted it, even though he came in a challenging mood. So it's a good lesson. we cannot understand Krishna just by reading books, for example. I mean, even by chanting. And what I mean by reading books in the wrong way or chanting in the wrong way. Taking darshan, I mean, so many people take darshan of Krishna, right? What are they perceiving of Krishna? Means Radha Giridhari. I mean, we hope their transcendental beauty and, devotional prayers and so on, but sometimes people take darshan of Radha Giridhari or the deities and they can't appreciate. But the way that Krishna is revealed is by us engaging in the process, the devotional process of engaging our senses in Krishna service, Atashi Krishna Namadi, by purifying our senses, by which we could perceive Krishna. And not basing our lives on such silly concepts like, for example, Daridra Narayan, poor Narayan. I mean, Narayan by nature, he's husband of the goddess of fortune. But then they say, Daridra Narayan, right? So in other words, everybody's God, and you should serve poor God, right? This is where you're serving God. But what they do is they serve everyone besides God because they're envious of God. And Prabhupada didn't like this at all. Not that he just didn't like it, but it's actually a very insidious, devious philosophical concept that is widespread throughout the world, especially has a stronghold in India, even now. So Prabhupada would say that, okay, we're all God, fine. Okay, you're God, I'm God. Then Prabhupada said, I'll be the kicking God. You know what he's referring to? He's referring to, he'll be the kick. You understand, right? You'll be the accepting God of the kick, and I'll be the kicking God. So in other words, this idea is just, it's very strange, actually, for so many different reasons. I mean, to say that the living entity is God then why is the living entity suffering so much? Disease and old age and sufferings of the body and mind. I mean, why if God doesn't suffer like that? Because by definition, God is what? All-powerful. So if you're all-powerful, I mean, the first thing someone would do if they're all-powerful, all right, great. I'm all-powerful now. No more suffering. Right? That's what they would do. But the fact that people are suffering so much, then how can they be God? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, people work very hard, like practically their whole life. And one of the things they're looking forward to, it's interesting because you work hard and then going to college and, getting a degree, and then you look forward to getting a good job, right? And then once you get a good job, of course, some people, they, like working or whatever, but a lot of people, they're looking for what? Right, retirement. Okay, I'm looking forward to that time I will retire. And if you would give people the option, hey, you could retire right now, you don't have to work anymore. I'll give you enough money where you don't have to work anymore. A lot of people would accept it. Of course, you have cases of people, anyways. So just the fact that people have to do so many things that they don't want to do, I mean, God doesn't do that. He's all-powerful. Why does he have to do things? He's not forced to do anything. Anyways, and on and on and on and on like that. But there's such mental concoctions being written in books and lectures and so on that is really spoiling the whole, spoiling people's, spoiling people's lives. All right, so lastly, again, it's being stated that Krishna is not a mundane personality. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he should be, we should understand that, engage in a loving relationship with him. And again, if people can't understand that immediately, that's fine. We don't expect people to immediately accept it. We don't want blind followers. And we also don't want blind followers, means blind worshippers of Krishna or blind worshippers of Srila Prabhupada. We also definitely don't want people taking initiation who are not, who don't have faith. Better don't take initiation. Why? Because why would we be interested in having people who don't have faith? It just doesn't make any sense. Better hold, better wait than take initiation. But we do want people to be broad-minded enough to at least give it a chance. At least try to develop faith in Krishna, at least try to develop faith in Prabhupada, at least try to develop faith in the Guru. And hopefully the idea is to actually become a full-fledged devotee. That's the idea. But to be broad-minded enough just to try. Because the fact is the living entity has been trying so many things. Philosophy of Krishna consciousness has so many bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, so many different ways of trying to be happy, so why not just try this? So, okay, does anybody have any, are there any question or comment? Yeah, where's Govardhan? That's the question. Where's Vijay Prabhu?
Oh, I have a question for you.
Okay, sure. May I ask who's asking the question?
Hare Krishna. This is Vanessa from Tucson. Hi.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a nice talk. Always enjoy a class from you. I just wanted to ask, because you're Sorry. I just wanted to ask, it's a really nice class. How do you encourage people who seem like they're sincere followers, but they're vulnerable to blind leaders?
Okay.
And so how do we keep them feeding that little bit of faith that they have, nourishing that, I guess?
Do you mean that they have attraction, they have attraction to Krishna consciousness, but they also have attraction to other gurus who are not really gurus type of thing?
Yeah. So because they're attracted to, they can kind of be vulnerable to some of the more subtle, cheating propensities, I think. So anyways, yeah, I guess gurus, but, it's hard to say you don't see Krishna in everyone, but, certain things that maybe are disagreeable, how do we kind of protect people from following those paths?
Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, by nature, people, and in general, people like to follow. Whether they like it or not, it's just they follow. They're going to follow someone. We're going to follow someone. So yeah, we want to be careful as followers. Even persons who are like Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was also a follower. He's following Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He's following disciplic succession. He's following Krishna. So we're all followers, ultimately. But yeah, we want to be careful that we don't become blind followers in the sense that we accept someone on the basis of, for example, well, why do you accepted that guru? Well, he's got a really brilliant smile. It really lights up the room, and he makes me feel good, which Prabhupada does mention, actually, in a purport. He says that about the charya or a spiritual teacher or gurus having a smile that attracts. Anyways, we have to look it up. But we should understand that the real qualification of the guru is that, what's that? Tasmad guru papadita jigyas shaya uttamam, that they need to be completely detached from all material engagement, and they need to be brahmanishta, completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and they need to know the truth, and they need to follow. Now, if somebody, like you're saying, how do you protect somebody from not following somebody who's not like that? Well, sometimes that could be difficult because people, sometimes when a man and a woman are about to get married or something, sometimes the person might say, hey, you shouldn't marry that person because this reason, and then the person says, well, hey, get lost, I'm going to marry him anyways. It's difficult because it's in other words, it's an affair of the heart. It's some type of emotion going on. So sometimes people become attracted to certain people, and to tell them that, hey, this person's not exactly who you think they are. But what we could do is we could at least try to do that. We could say, hey, I know you're attracted to this person, but you may consider these things within reason. So that's there. But also just with ourselves, and you could say with others, we could ourselves follow this principle and also try to educate others that we have to be careful who we accept as a leader. Because sometimes people, they just kind of think, okay, well, this person's manifestation of anger is spiritual, transcendental. Prabhupada got angry, and of course we accept Prabhupada's anger as spiritual, as transcendental, but it's interesting because although Prabhupada engaged anger, it's not so easy thing to engage. You have to be quite transcendental, if not completely. You could say, anyways. You have to be at least in sattva gun to. So, but means predominantly in sattva gun to use anger, more or less. But so we may say, oh, this leader here, they're becoming angry, and we say, oh, this is spiritual because they're a leader, because so and so and so on, right? Or this person, whatever, as a local leader, and I saw him at the local football game at the bar. I was there, but hey, I'm a follower. I could be there, but why is he there? We say, oh well, he's just having a good time. He needs to entertain himself too, and we kind of mask that as something spiritual. But we have to be careful about that. But I would say, before getting ourselves in a situation in which we have to even think about these things, is we should analyze. Because sometimes people, they become students of a particular person, and then later they try to somehow or other figure out how what they're doing is spiritual when it's really not. So before we get ourselves in that situation, better do some thorough analyzation beforehand, and accept who the right person means, who we're convinced of. So for ourselves and others, we can educate people like that. And also just to speak the truth. We could speak the truth to people, but it's interesting because sometimes we speak the truth, but we do so in an imbalanced way, where maybe we shouldn't have said it at that particular time, or maybe we shouldn't have said it in that particular way. But the basic thing is to speak the truth and to try to help people as much as possible. And that's all we could do. So I know that was a bit of a... But I hope that...
Oh, that was very nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. I remember my spiritual master, when he was a young brahmachari, he tells this story, and he went to go register Srila Prabhupada, a trust for Prabhupada. And he registered it as Bhaktivedanta Trust, something like that. But it was like a whole, in India, everything's a huge process. Those of you who've been to India, to get something done legally and so on, it's a big process. So it took him all day. He went to Delhi, and he was from Vrindavan. That's many hours in itself, just traveling there and then dealing with all this legality. So he completed it. So then he was taking rest at night, and all of a sudden he hears somebody knocking on his door, like really forcefully. And then he's thinking in his mind, he said, that can't be anybody besides Tamal Krishna Goswami. He said, no one else would do that. So then he opened the door, and then Tamal Krishna Goswami he was upset. He said, you made a mistake. He said, you registered it? Yeah. You registered it as Bhaktivedanta Trust. He said, it's not Bhaktivedanta Trust. He said, there's so many Bhaktivedantas. He said, it's Bhaktivedanta Swami Trust. And he said, you have to go there tomorrow and fix it. And then, he kind of walked away, and then Giriraj Das Brahmachari, he was remembering and explaining he was explaining when he was telling the story that he said he was very happy that Tamal Krishna Goswami said that to him, because he said that they were friends, they were close friends. But he made the point that for Prabhupada's service, mainly for Prabhupada's service and for his benefit, he was willing to speak up, which in a way which some people say, oh, we don't want to mess up our friendship or something, but he was willing to speak, and of course it didn't mess up their friendship. So in other words, what I'm saying is that to be a sadhu, to be a saintly person, to be a friend means to speak the truth, to tell people, to tell people the truth. So yeah, we could tell our friends the truth. So in this case, you could tell your friend. You could let us know what the result is. All right, any last... yes.
Hare Krishna.
How do you protect people from getting deluded by false gurus and leaders like that?
Yeah.
And I think Prabhupada, he would say that the best protection is the knowledge in Prabhupada's books.
Yes.
If someone is coming and they have some doubts, then emphasize the knowledge in the books and the direct experience of Krishna consciousness. This was what Prabhupada gave. He gave the genuine thing. As soon as you have someone, they're in a kirtan, and they're actually trying to hear and chant and absorb themselves in the kirtan, and maybe so many doubts, but in that kirtan, and in other experiences, and let's be honest, prasadam is so important. If the prasadam is prepared nicely with devotion and skill, it's a tremendously attractive feature.
Yes.
So you have the kirtan, you have the books, you have the friendly devotees, you have the deities, and if someone is open to that, then it just overwhelms any other kind. I mean, I was going here and there, and I had some faith in other leaders, and I had the great good fortune of when the 1973 Gaur Purnima came up, festival, I was actually with the devotees, I think out in the park, there was a kirtan, So I started to be attracted. And this other bogus guru, who was quite prominent at the time, he said, because he wanted me to join, He started blaspheming devotees and criticizing ISKCON. But instead of creating doubts in ISKCON, I created doubts in him, and I rejected him, and I went. So it's really the all attractive nature. If the temple is being run nicely, or whatever unit it may be, and sincere devotees, the kirtans are nice, and of course the books, the philosophy, then that is often the most effective way for people to cure their doubts. If they can, and if they're participating nicely.
Yeah, in the Jehovah, there was one girl, she told her story about the Jehovah's Witness group, and she was going there, and then the church, and then they started criticizing Hare Krishnas, and then she said, what is this Hare Krishna? And then she started looking into it, and she became a devotee. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, wonder if it ever happens in the Hare Krishna movement. People are criticizing in person. What is this in person? And they say that once you become the taste and nectar of personalism, then it's, practically very difficult or impossible to go to, back to still and personalism. But anyways. All right, so last, Vijay, Krishna has an answer for us.
No, not an answer.
I want an answer from you this time to your own question. Anyways, you could go.
Okay,
yes.
We can do it both. I can give my answer to my own question, and I can hear your answer to my own question. If I may suggest it, Prabhu. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Dandavat pranams, Prabhu. The quote from the purport to the text you chose for today, text 29, goes as follows, quote, "Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be." End quote. So, Prabhu, you know better than me that when Srila Prabhupada presented his Bhagavad Gita as it is, many presentations of Bhagavad Gita were there already, but Srila Prabhupada categorized all of it as no better than unauthorized. So based on all of this, my question is, what is the reason for the foolish writer ignore the authorized way of presenting Bhagavad Gita? what causes for a writer who is interested in spiritual knowledge coming from the eastern part of the world?
Well, I mean, they try to cash in on Krishna's words. I mean, especially in India, I mean, it's a very, you'd say, good business. You know, you get your own commentary of Bhagavad Gita, you grow your beard out, right? Your hair out, you put on saffron, you learn how to speak to whatever degree. You know, you smile at crowd. Somehow you have some charisma, then you could get a huge crowd of people, and in this way cash in on Krishna's words. Means you fill up your bank account and live.
So these things happen in India?
Of course.
Wow.
So that's material motives. I mean, it's interesting because you would wonder how many people would actually try to use Krishna's words if they weren't cashing in on them, you know, if they couldn't make some money. I suspect you'd have a lot less gurus in the market. So, you know, it always boils down to sense gratification, which means having plenty of money to, gratify your senses and live comfortably. That's what it always boils down to.
Well, can I give my answer?
Okay.
Yes, very briefly. And thank you for your wonderful answer, as to be expected. My answer is the first concept that comes to my mind related to the reason, the cause for these people these writers to make use of unauthorized use of the words of Lord Krishna. The concept that comes to my mind is envy.
Yes. Yes.
That is my answer.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada.